Rain falls relentlessly over Gotham's financial district. Not the clean rain of a summer afternoon, but heavy, oily rain that carries with it the weight of every bad decision ever made in the city. Glass towers reflect the gray sky in broken fragments, like shattered mirrors of a justice system that never worked right. On the 23rd floor of Gotham Superior Court, Judge Marcus Valente signs a document. His Parker pen, a graduation gift from 23 years ago, scratches across the paper with the authority of someone who has never doubted himself. Cold neon light from the surrounding towers invades his office, turning his skin to pale marble. He doesn't notice. The document is an acquittal. 3 men, Dmitry Volkov, Anton Krieg, and Samuel Sam Garrett, have just been released. Arms trafficking, organized extortion. 2 police officers dead in an ambush that everyone knows was orchestrated by them. But there's a technical problem with the chain of custody of evidence, a procedural error, a violation of the defendant's constitutional rights. Marcus Valente is a man of principles. He doesn't judge by emotion, doesn't judge by public pressure, doesn't judge by the screams of victims' families who packed the courthouse that morning. He judges by the law, and the law, cold and precise as a surgical blade, says that illegally obtained evidence has no validity. It doesn't matter how guilty the men appear. Doesn't matter how many lives were destroyed. Justice must be blind, he tells himself, repeating the mantra he learned in law school. But Gotham is not a classroom, and justice in this city was never blind. It just pretended not to see. At 6:47 p.m., the 3 men walk out the courthouse's front doors. The press is there, the cameras are there, the victims' families are there. Dmitry Volkov, a 6'3" Ukrainian with scars that tell stories no one wants to hear, smiles for the cameras. It's a smile that says, "I won." Again. Marcus Valente watches from his office window. He doesn't see the smile. He only sees principles, the law, order, structure. He closes the curtains and gathers his belongings. Another day's work, another sentence delivered. Justice has been served. But at 7:32 p.m., something breaks the silence of the financial district. An explosion. Not big enough to bring down a building, but big enough to be heard 3 blocks away. A convenience store at the corner of Kane Street and Court Avenue explodes into flames. The alarm goes off. Sirens begin singing their familiar song through Gotham's wet streets. Firefighters arrive in 6 minutes. Police in 4. A charred body is found among the rubble. He was wearing a uniform, a badge. Detective James Brennan, 43 years old, 17 years on the force, father of 2 children, has just been incinerated. Security cameras show 3 men leaving the scene 2 minutes before the explosion, 3 shadows in an alley, 3 silhouettes the police recognize immediately: Dmitry Volkov, Anton Krieg, and Samuel Garrett. At 8:15 p.m., Marcus Valente's phone rings in his Crown Point apartment. It's Captain Gordon. His voice is calm, but there's something beneath the surface. Something cold, metallic, sharp. "Judge Valente," Gordon says, "the men you freed today just killed a police officer." Marcus Valente doesn't respond. There is no possible response. The Parker pen in his hand suddenly weighs like a weapon. He signed their freedom. 6 hours later, they sign the death warrant of an innocent man. But that's not what paralyzes him. Not the guilt. Not the remorse. It's the question that begins forming in his mind like a toxic cloud. What if I was the mistake? What if the law, sacred and inviolable, was just an excuse? He hangs up the phone, walks to the window. Down below, Gotham breathes, pulses, watches, and then he sees. On the street, beneath the streetlight that flickers with the regularity of a diseased heart, a man stands. Doesn't move, doesn't smoke, doesn't look at his phone, just watches. Watches the building, watches the window, watches Marcus Valente. The man wears a dark coat, has a military haircut. There's something in his hands. No, not a weapon. It's a paper. No, it's a sign. No, it's... Marcus squints. It's a photograph. large enough to be seen from the 23rd floor, a photograph of Detective James Brennan, smiling, alive, before. The man on the street doesn't raise the photograph in protest, doesn't shout, doesn't accuse, just holds it and watches. And then, as if summoned by the rain, another man appears, and another, and another. 5, 10, 20, all holding photographs, all silent, all watching. Marcus Valenti steps back from the window. His breathing is heavy, his heart an offbeat drum. He grabs the phone, dials building security. There are people in front of the building, he says, trying to keep his voice steady. Yes, sir, the security guard responds. About 30 people. They're on public property. They're not doing anything illegal. What do they want? Silence on the other end of the line. Security? I think, sir, they want you to see. Marcus hangs up, returns to the window. Now there are 50, 100, 200. A silent crowd under the rain, holding photographs of a dead man. No protest signs, no vengeful shouts, just silence, just watching, just presence. And then Marcus Valenti understands. It's not the police who will judge him, not the judicial system, not the governor or the mayor or the newspapers. It's Gotham, the city itself, the streets, the people he never saw, never met, never considered. His phone rings again. He doesn't answer. He knows what's coming. He knows what's happening. And for the first time in 23 years of his career, Marcus Valenti, the man who never doubted, who always followed the law, who always trusted the structure, feels something he can't name. It's not fear. It's not regret. It's the weight of being seen. The phone screen illuminates in the dark, a message from an unknown number, no text, just an image. It's a photo of the courthouse facade, taken today, 6:47 p.m. 3 men walking out the front door, smiling, and underneath, written by hand in red ink, 3 words that transform everything. You freed them. Marcus Valenti drops the phone. He walks to the bathroom, turns on the cold water, washes his face. When he looks in the mirror, he sees a stranger. A man who thought he knew the difference between right and wrong. A man who thought the law was enough. He closes his eyes. When he opens them, the bathroom light is flickering, and in the darkness between flickers for a fraction of a second, he sees something reflected in the mirror behind him. A shadow. No. A figure. No. A man. He turns. No one there. But the bathroom window, a window he's certain he left closed, is open. Rain comes in. Wind howls. And on the windowsill, left with surgical precision, there's an object. A gavel, small, wooden, the kind used in courtrooms, a judge's gavel. But this one is broken, the head cracked in half. And on the handle, carved with a sharp blade, a question. Who judges the judge? Marcus Valenti backs away. His breathing fails. His hands tremble. He runs to the apartment door, locks all the locks, pushes a chair against the doorknob, grabs the phone, dials 911. Hello? I need police protection. My name is Marcus Valenti. Judge Marcus Valenti. I'm being threatened. There are people outside. There's someone who broke into my apartment. Please, I need... Address, sir. Crown Point, Monarch Building, apartment 2307. We're sending a unit. Stay where you are. Lock yourself in a safe room. Don't leave. Marcus hangs up, takes a deep breath, tries to calm down. He's not a criminal. He's a judge. He is the law. He's protected by the law. But a voice in his head, a voice that sounds strangely like Detective James Brennan's, whispers something different. You're in Gotham. Here, no one is protected. 15 minutes pass, no sirens, no patrol car. 20 minutes, 30. He calls again. Hello, I called half an hour ago. They said, Sir, there's been a delay. All units are occupied with an incident in the Narrows. We're trying to redirect. How long? We don't know, sir. Maybe an hour, maybe more. Marcus hangs up. His hand is shaking so much the phone almost falls. He walks to the living room window. The crowd is still there, but now they're not standing still. They're moving. Slowly, in formation, surrounding the building. And then he sees, in the middle of the crowd, 3 men. No, it can't be. They wouldn't have the nerve. Wouldn't be that stupid. But there they are. Dmitry Volkov, Anton Krieg, and Samuel Garrett, in the middle of the crowd, smiling. Number, not at the crowd, upward, at him. Marcus's phone rings. He answers without thinking. Hello? A voice, hoarse, deliberate, each word pronounced like a sentence. Judge Valente, you freed 3 men today. Men who knew they would kill again. Men you knew would kill again. You chose the law over justice. You chose structure over life. And now, pause. Long. Painful. Now Gotham chooses you. Who are you? Marcus shouts. What do you want? I'm not the one you should fear, Judge. I'm not the one who will judge you. Then who? The city, the streets, those you never saw, those you never met, those you always ignored when making your just decisions behind your closed doors and your sacred laws. This is a threat. You'll what? Report me, arrest me, judge me? Good luck, Judge. You're going to need it. Click. The call drops. Marcus Valente is alone, on the 23rd floor, surrounded by a city that doesn't want him anymore, surrounded by a justice that is not his own. He looks out the window. The crowd now covers the entire block, silent, motionless, waiting. And then, as if it had been coordinated, all of them, all 200, 300, 400, raise their photographs at the same time. Not of Detective Brennan, of Marcus Valente. Photographs of him leaving the courthouse, signing documents, walking the streets, entering his building. Photographs taken over weeks, months, years. They were watching, all along, waiting, documenting. And now, the time has come. Marcus Valente, the man who judged hundreds of people, who decided the fate of countless lives, who always trusted structure and law and order, is about to be judged. Not by a court, not by a jury of his peers, not by the system he defended, but by the jury of the streets. Act 2. The Fall the Narrows, Gotham's alleys. Marcus Valente has never been to the Narrows. Not really. He saw it in police reports, read about it in newspapers, heard about it in testimonies from defendants and victims who passed through his courtroom. But he never set foot here, never smelled the mildew and urine and desperation that permeates every brick, every alley, every soul still breathing in this forgotten labyrinth of Gotham. Now he's here, not by choice, by necessity. 2 hours ago, police finally arrived at his apartment. 2 young officers, exhausted, with dark circles that look like open wounds. They examined the broken gavel, wrote down phone numbers from the threats, asked questions that seemed scripted, and then, with the same indifference with which you discard an orange peel, they said, "We can't offer continuous protection, sir. Limited resources. But we recommend you stay somewhere safe for a few days, until things calm down." "Somewhere safe?" Marcus asked. "Where?" One of the officers, a dark-haired man with a scar on his chin, gave a tired smile. "Not here, that's for sure." And that's how Marcus Valente found himself driving his black Audi through Gotham streets at 2 a.m, with no destination, no plan, just the growing certainty that his life, as he knew it, is over. He can't go back home. The crowd is still there. He can't go to a hotel, too visible, too public. Can't seek out friends, because he realizes with a cold shock, he has no friends. Only colleagues, only professional acquaintances. Only people who respect him for his position, not for who he is. So he does what any rational person would do when Gotham wants your head. He disappears. The Narrows are the perfect place for that. Nobody asks your name here. Nobody cares about your story. You're just another shadow among shadows. He parks the Audi in a covered lot that smells like burnt oil and lost illusions. Leaves the keys in the ignition, not because he trusts, but because he doesn't care anymore. If someone steals it, better that way. One less connection to his old life. He walks through the narrow streets of the Narrows. Rain still falls, but here it seems heavier, dirtier. The street lights, those that still work, cast distorted shadows that look like frozen laughter. There are people on the sidewalks, huddled, smoking, whispering. They look at Marcus, his expensive suit, his refined haircut, his Italian leather shoes, and see one thing: pray. But they do nothing, because there's something in the way he walks now. No longer with the upright posture of the man of principles, but with the curve of the man who carries guilt. He finds a motel. It has no name, just a broken neon sign that flickers MEL in sickly green. The receptionist, a woman in her 60s with wrinkles that look like battle scars, doesn't raise her eyes when he asks for a room. $70 a night, up front. Marcus puts money on the counter. She hands him a key. No questions, no registration, no paperwork. Just a transaction. Anonymous. Perfect. Room 12 is on the second floor at the end of a hallway that creaks like broken bones. Inside, there's a bed with stained sheets, a tube television that probably hasn't worked since 2003, and a window overlooking an alley where rats make their nightly rounds. Marcus sits on the bed, doesn't turn on the TV, doesn't open the window, just sits. And for the first time since he signed that acquittal, he thinks about Detective Brennan, a man he never met, a man whose death he caused indirectly. Not legally, never legally, but morally? Morally, he pulled the trigger. Thinks about Dmitry Volkov, Anton Krieg, and Samuel Garrett, 3 men he freed, 3 men who knew exactly what they were going to do, 3 men who now walk Gotham streets free, unpunished, unstoppable, and thinks about the crowd, the jury of the streets, the hundreds of people who don't need courts or laws or judges to know the difference between right and wrong, who see with the eyes of lived life, not with the eyes of studied books. His phone rings. Unknown number. He hesitates, but answers. Hello? Judge Valente. The same hoarse voice from the night before. I hope you're comfortable. How did you get this number? Please, you think anything in Gotham is private? What do you want from me? Nothing. You already gave us what we wanted. And what was that? You hid. You ran. You proved you know you're wrong. Marcus closes his eyes. I followed the law. The law. The voice laughs. Not a laugh of humor, but of despair. The law says illegally obtained evidence is worthless. But was Detective Brennan's life worth something? Are the lives of Volkov's next victims worth something, or is only what's written in your sacred book worth anything? If I ignored constitutional rights, if you ignored them, Judge, 3 murderers would be in prison, and a good man would still be alive. That's not how it works. That's not how it works in your world. But in the Narrows, in the East End, in the Bowery, that's exactly how it works. Either you survive, or you die. And you just signed the death warrant of someone who didn't deserve to die. Marcus opens his mouth, but there are no words, because for the first time, he has no argument, no case law, no legal doctrine. All he has is the weight. What do you want from me? He whispers. We want you to see, to understand, to feel what we all feel every day in this city, the fear, the injustice, the certainty that the system doesn't work for us, only for you. So this is revenge. No, Judge. This is justice. Our justice. The call drops. Marcus throws the phone at the wall. It shatters. Pieces of glass and plastic fall like broken teeth. He stands up, walks to the window. Down below, in the alley, something moves. A shadow. No, a man. In a dark coat. Watching. Marcus steps away, heart racing. Someone is following. Someone is always following. He needs to leave. Needs to think. Needs to... The room door bangs, once, twice, 3 times. Marcus freezes. "Who is it?" he shouts. No response. More knocking, more insistent. He grabs a lamp from the nightstand. It's not a weapon, but it's something. Approaches the door, looks through the peephole. No one there. He takes a deep breath, opens the door slowly. The hallway is empty, but on the floor, right in front of the door, there's something. An envelope, brown thick. No address, no return address. Marcus picks it up, closes the door, locks it, opens the envelope with trembling hands. Inside there are photographs, dozens of them. The first is of Detective Brennan, alive, smiling with his children in a park. The second is of Brennan, charred, unrecognizable, still holding his melted badge. The third is of Marcus, signing the acquittal. The fourth is of Volkov, Krieg, and Garrett, leaving the courthouse, smiling. And then a sequence. Volkov entering the convenience store, Garrett placing something under the counter, Krieg lighting a cigarette, Brennan entering, Brennan noticing, Brennan trying to flee, the explosion. Marcus can't breathe. They documented everything, every second, every movement. And then, the last photograph. It's of him, almost, now in this room, right after he answered the phone. The photo was taken from outside the window. Marcus turns. The window is open. No more than 2 inches. He's certain it was closed. He runs to the window, looks out. On the fire escape, climbing up rapidly, a figure in black, hood, gloves, mask. Marcus screams, "Stop! Police!" But there is no police. There's only Gotham, and Gotham doesn't respond to screams. He grabs the shattered phone, useless, runs to the hallway, bangs on the door next door. "Help! Please, somebody!" No response. The narrow doors don't open for strangers. He runs down the stairs, 2 steps at a time, almost trips, exits through the back door. The alley is dark, empty. No, not empty. At the end of the alley, illuminated by a single streetlight that shouldn't be on, they are. 20 people, 30, 50, all hooded, all silent, all holding the same photographs of Detective Brennan. Marcus backs away, turns to run. But behind him, blocking the exit, there are more. He's surrounded. None of them speak. None of them move. Just watch. Marcus spins, looking for an exit. There is none. "What do you want?" he shouts. His voice echoes off the brick walls like a wounded animal. "What do you want from me?" A voice, not from the front, not from behind, from above, on the fire escape. "We want you to choose, Judge." Marcus looks up. The figure in black is there. White mask, expressionless, just voice. Choose what? Between being the judge or being the judged? That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. You spent your life deciding others' fates without ever facing consequences. You freed criminals because the law said you could. You ignored victims because the law said you should. And now, the figure jumps from the fire escape, lands in the alley with predator's grace. Now you're going to feel what it's like. You can't touch me. You're what? A judge. Here in the Narrows, you're nothing. Just another man who caused pain and ran from the consequences. Marcus looks around. The crowd approaches, slowly, unhurried. They have all night. They have all of Gotham. "Please," he says, and hates the sound of his own voice. I didn't know. I was just following the law." "The law," the figure laughs. "Whose law, Judge? The rich? The powerful? those who can pay lawyers who find procedural errors. It's the law for everyone. No, the figure's voice explodes. It's not, and you know it. Deep down, you always knew. But it was easier to pretend, easier to hide behind the bench, easier not to see the faces of those you destroyed. Marcus closes his eyes. What do you want from me? We want you to see the faces. The crowd opens. In the center of the alley, two people approach. A woman, young, maybe 35, dark hair, red eyes from crying, and a boy, no more than 10. Holding her hand, looking at Marcus with a mixture of confusion and hatred. These, says the masked figure, are Detective Brennan's wife and son. Marcus feels his legs weaken. The woman approaches. She doesn't scream, doesn't cry, just looks. My name is Sarah, she says, voice calm, controlled, more frightening than any scream. And this is my son, Michael. You don't know us, never saw us, never thought about us when you signed that paper. I'm sorry. Are you? She tilts her head. Sorry that my husband is dead? Or sorry you got caught? Marcus doesn't respond. I watched the trial, Sarah continues. Heard you explain why you had to free them. Constitutional rights, procedural error, integrity of the system. Pretty words, but while you were protecting the system, my husband was dying. I couldn't. You could. You chose not to. The boy, Michael, steps forward. He's holding something in his hand. A badge. His father's badge. He promised he'd take me fishing, the boy says, and his voice is so small, so broken, that it cuts Marcus deeper than any accusation. This weekend, we were going to camp, but he never came back. Marcus wants to speak, wants to explain, wants to say he was just doing his job, following the law, maintaining the integrity of the system. But looking into the eyes of a 10-year-old boy who will never see his father again, all words die. Sarah approaches closer. She places something in Marcus's jacket pocket. It's heavy, cold. This, she says, is the bullet that didn't kill my husband, because he was burned, not shot. But I want you to carry this every day, to remember that your decisions have weight, have consequences, have bodies. She turns, takes her son's hand, disappears back into the crowd. The masked figure steps forward. Now you've seen, says. Now you feel. But it's not over yet, Judge, because Sarah and Michael aren't the only ones you destroyed. The crowd opens again. This time it's a man, old, maybe 70, walking with a cane. He approaches slowly, each step an effort. My name is Thomas Klein, says the man. 3 years ago, you freed a man named Jacob Mercer. Homicide. Key witness not properly presented. Procedural error. Marcus remembers, vaguely. 2 months later, Thomas continues, Jacob Mercer killed my daughter. Emily, 24 years old, nurse. She was coming home from work. He followed her, strangled her, left her body in an alley. Marcus's knees give out. He falls. I didn't know. You never know, Judge, because you never look, never ask. What happens after I sign this paper? Number. You only care about the law, about the process, about your precious system. Another man approaches, then another, then a woman, then another. All with stories, all with faces, all with names. Criminals freed by Marcus Valente on legal technicalities, and the victims those criminals made afterward. 12 cases, 12 faces, 12 destroyed lives. Marcus can't look anymore. He covers his face with his hands, cries. Not tears of performative regret, but of true collapse. The collapse of a man who finally sees what he's done. The masked figure crouches beside him. Now you understand, says softly. The law is not justice. It's just rules. And the rules, Judge, were made to protect those with power, not those who need protection. Marcus lifts his face. What are you going to do to me? That's the wrong question. What's the right one? What are you going to do with what you've learned? The figure stands, extends a hand. Marcus looks at it, hesitates, then accepts. The figure pulls him to his feet. You have a choice now, Judge Marcus Valente. You can go back to your old life, your courtroom, your laws, your system, and pretend this night never happened, or ... quote. Or you can wake up. The crowd begins to disperse, one by one, silently, as if they were ghosts. In minutes, the alley is empty, except for Marcus and the masked figure. Who are you? Marcus asks. The figure removes the mask. It's a woman, maybe 40, face marked by scars, eyes that have seen too much. My name is Rachel, she says, and 5 years ago, you freed the man who killed my parents. Marcus doesn't respond. There is no possible response. I could have killed you tonight, Rachel says. No one would have known. No one would have cared. But I'm not like the men you freed. I don't take lives for revenge. Then why did you do this? So you'd understand that justice isn't what's written in books. It's what lives in the hearts of those who suffer. She turns to leave. Wait, Marcus shouts. Where do I go now? Rachel stops, looks over her shoulder. To the only place where real judgments happen in Gotham. Where? She smiles. It's not a happy smile. It's the smile of someone who knows the end of the story. To the jury of the streets. She disappears into the darkness. Marcus is alone in the alley, in the Narrows, in the heart of Gotham. He picks up the broken phone. It's useless. Picks up the motel room key. He's not going back there. All that remains is the bullet in his pocket, the weight of reality, and a question that won't leave his mind. If he's judged by the jury of the streets, what will the sentence be? Act 3, The Judgment Old Gotham, the Trigate Docks. Dawn doesn't come to the Trigate Docks. Not really. Here, in the most forgotten corner of Gotham, where the river meets the sea and where the past meets oblivion, daylight is just a distant rumor. Thick, permanent fog embraces the abandoned warehouses and broken piers like a shroud. The smell of dead fish and industrial oil permeates the air with the nauseating sweetness of decay. Marcus Valente walks through the docks at 6 a.m. Hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, just walked through the streets of the Narrows, through the East End, through the Bowery, each neighborhood a lesson, each corner a revelation. He saw things he never saw before, not because they didn't exist, but because he never looked. Saw children sleeping in cardboard boxes under bridges. Saw women selling their bodies for doses of something to make them forget. Saw men with empty eyes injecting poison into their veins because the pain of consciousness is worse than slow death. And in every face he saw the same thing. The system he defended didn't protect them. It destroyed them. Now he's here. Old Gotham, the docks, the place where the city was born, and where perhaps it will die. There's a warehouse at the end of Pier 7, abandoned for decades. The windows are black holes. The doors, open mouths screaming in silence. Graffiti covers every inch of the walls. Distorted faces, words of fury, symbols of urban tribes fighting for territory in a war no one wins. And on the warehouse doors, painted in blood red, 2 words: Jury of the Streets. Marcus stops in front. His heart beats like a hammer in a glass chest. Every instinct screams to flee, to run, to return to the old life. But he can't, because now he knows what he did, knows the price of what he did, and knows he can't live with it without facing it. He pushes the door, it creaks, opens. Inside, the darkness is almost solid. But there are lights, candles, improvised torches, lanterns, forming a circle in the center of the warehouse. And in the circle, there are people. Hundreds of them. Maybe 1,000. All silent. All waiting. They're no longer a disorganized mob. Now there's something different. Something ancient. Something that remembers. Marcus walks to the center. His steps echo like distant thunder. No one speaks. No one breathes. Just eyes following him. Like the city itself had grown a body and gathered to see. In the center of the circle, there's a chair. Old, wooden, splintered by time, but still standing. The defendant's chair. Marcus knows what he needs to do. He sits, and then from the darkness beyond the circle, Rachel emerges. Without a mask now, just her face, her scars, her truth. "Judge Marcus Valente," she says, and her voice cuts through the silence like a blade through cloth. "You are here today, not because you were arrested. Not because you were forced, but because you chose." Marcus doesn't answer. There's no language left for this. "This is the jury of the streets," Rachel continues. "Here there are no lawyers, no appeals, no technicalities. Only truth, only consequence, only justice." She begins to circle him slowly, the firelight carving her shadow across his face. "For 23 years, you judged others. You believed justice was a tool you controlled, that guilt and mercy were yours to assign." She stops in front of him, looks into his eyes. "But justice isn't a gavel. It's a mirror." Rachel raises her hand, and the crowd responds, silently. One by one, thousands of hands rise, forming a sea of open palms pointed toward him. No words, no chants, only the sound of breathing, human, heavy, inevitable. The air thickens. The silence grows unbearable, pressing against his chest like a verdict written in stone. Marcus tries to look away, but the hands keep rising, filling his vision, his mind, his memory. Each hand, a life. Each silence, a sentence. Rachel lowers her gaze. "You spent years deciding who deserved to suffer," she says softly. "Now you finally understand what judgment feels like." She steps back, and for the first time Marcus realizes he's not on trial. He's already been judged. Marcus raises his eyes. For the first time he speaks. "I know," he says, and his voice is hoarse, broken. "I know what I did. And I know there's no excuse, no explanation. I hid behind the law because it was easier than facing the truth." He stands, looks around at the jury. "You want to know if I regret it?" "Yes." "Want to know if I'd change my decisions?" "Yes." "Want to know if I finally understand what I did?" He pauses, takes a deep breath. "Yes. But that doesn't matter, does it? Because the damage is done. The lives are destroyed. And no words of mine can undo that." Rachel crosses her arms. "So what do you propose?" "I propose," Marcus says, "that I accept this jury's verdict, whatever it may be." Murmurs run through the crowd. Surprise, confusion, anger. "You think," Rachel says slowly, "that accepting punishment will redeem you?" "No, but it's the only path I have." Rachel takes a step forward. Her eyes pierce Marcus. "You're wrong," she says. "Accepting punishment is easy. It's passive. It's you transferring guilt to us. They punished me, so I'm square. That's not how it works." "Then what do you want?" Rachel smiles, but it's not a kind smile. It's the smile of someone who finally catches what they were looking for. "We want you to live," she says, "and dedicate every day you have left to fixing what you broke." Marcus blinks. "How?" "You'll resign. Leave the court. Leave your comfortable life. And you'll work. Here, in the Narrows, in the East End, in the Bowery. You'll defend those you ignored. You'll fight for those you destroyed, without salary, without recognition, without glory. She approaches closer, and every night before you sleep, you'll look in the mirror and remember, you're not doing this to redeem yourself. You're doing it because it's the least you owe to those you hurt. Marcus swallows, and if I refuse, Rachel shrugs. Then you go back to your life, your courtroom, your laws, and pretend this night never happened. But know this, we'll be watching, always, and every time you free another criminal, every time you ignore another victim. She leaves the threat hanging in the air. Marcus looks around, at the jury, at Gotham, at the people he never saw but who were always there. And for the first time in 23 years, he makes a decision not based on law, but on conscience. I accept, he says. The crowd explodes in murmurs. Some applaud, others spit, others just watch, distrustful. Rachel nods. Then it's done. You've been judged by the jury of the streets, and the sentence is live, but live with the weight of what you did. She turns to leave. Wait, Marcus says. And Volkov, Krieg, and Garrett? The men I freed? The ones who killed Detective Brennan? Rachel stops, looks over her shoulder. They were judged too, she says. 3 hours ago. And the verdict? Rachel doesn't respond, but her silence is eloquent. Marcus understands. The jury of the streets doesn't forgive, not for everyone. He walks toward the warehouse exit. The crowd parts to let him pass. Some look with contempt, others with curiosity, others with something that might be respect. When he exits, fog still covers the docks. But something has changed. Not the fog, not the docks, not Gotham. Him, Marcus Valente, the man who never doubted, who always followed the law, who always trusted structure, now doubts everything, and for the first time, that's a good thing. He walks through the docks, no destination, no hurry, just walks. In his hand, he holds the bullet that Sarah Brennan placed in his pocket. He squeezes it, feels the weight, and thinks, this is justice, not the one I knew, but the one I should have known all along. Behind him in the dock shadows, figures watch. Rachel is among them. She nods to the others. They disappear. The judgment is over, but the sentence has just begun. And somewhere in Gotham, in a dark alley near the industrial docks, 3 bodies are found by police. Dmitry Volkov, Anton Krieg, and Samuel Garrett, dead. Not by bullets, not by knives, but by something more poetic. Each one holds in their cold and rigid hands a photograph of Detective James Brennan, and on each of their chests, carved with surgical precision, one word: guilty. Captain Gordon examines the scene. He knows what happened, knows who did it, but when his subordinates ask if they should investigate, he just shakes his head. Leave it, he says. Sometimes, Gotham has its own justice. And so in a city where law and justice rarely meet, where the system fails more than it functions, where power corrupts more than it protects, the jury of the streets gave its verdict. And the judge, finally, learned what it means to be judged. 3 months later, a small office in the Narrows, no sign, no advertising, just a door with a paper taped on it. Free legal consultations. Marcus Valente sits at a makeshift desk. His expensive suit has been replaced by simple clothes, his refined haircut by something more practical. His hands, once soft, now have calluses from so much work. On the desk, stacks of papers, cases he's defending, people ignored by the system, people like Rosa Martinez, people like those he destroyed. A young man enters, maybe 20, scared, desperate. You're the lawyer? He asks. Marcus smiles, not the confident smile from before, something more humble, more human. I was a judge, he says, Now I'm just someone trying to fix what he broke. The young man sits, begins telling his story. Marcus listens, really listens, not to judge, not to analyze technicalities, but to understand. And when the young man finishes, Marcus nods. "I'll help you," he says. "I can't promise victory, can't promise justice, but I can promise I'll fight by your side." The young man smiles, relieved, hopeful. When he leaves, Marcus looks out the fogged window. Outside, Gotham continues, raining, breathing, living. And somewhere in the shadows, he knows, the jury of the streets watches, always watching, always judging, always present. But now, for the first time, he's not afraid of them, because he's no longer the judge they judged. He's the man they created. And in his desk drawer, carefully stored, a bullet, the weight of reality, the symbol of transformation. Marcus picks it up, holds it against the light, and whispers to himself, like a prayer or a curse or a promise, "I see you now, Gotham, and you see me." And finally, for the first time, he closes his hand. We're looking in the same direction. The rain continues falling, the docks remain covered in fog, and the jury of the streets remains in the shadows. But something has changed, because a man who judged without seeing now sees without judging, and that, in Gotham, is the only possible redemption.